This is my recording for the second concert report. The second concert, which I decided to virtually attend, contained various works that ranged from composers like Mozart, Rossini, Luigi Bassi, and Brahms. These pieces were performed by the UTEP Symphony Orchestra on May 6th, 2025, and the first three pieces contained student soloists on the harp, flute, vocal, and clarinet. In this report, I will explore the lives of the composers above, as well as the music, while also providing my feedback on the performances. Additionally, I will talk about how supporting local artistry and becoming a more engaged citizen can help one develop into a more well rounded and informed individual. The first piece performed by what the first piece performed was composed by Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart, and it is named Concerto for Flute and Harp in C major, K299, Movement 1, Allegro. Mozart was born in 1756 and died in 1791. Much is known about Mozart's life, including the fact that he is considered one of the best classical music composers of all time. While reading through his biography, though, one thing stood out to me, which reads: unlike any other composer in musical history, he wrote in all the musical genres of his day and excelled in every one. Talent like that, like the one possessed by Mozart, is not something that can be taught. He was gifted with musical expertise from the day he was born. As for the piece, there is historical documentation about the purpose for writing it. The description reads: the K299 concerto was written in Paris in 1778 for the Duc de Guienne, about whose flute playing Mozart had kind words, and the Duke's daughter, who plays the harp magnificently, young Wolfgang wrote to his father. It is further described that Mozart was not a fan of those two instruments, but decided to compose for them regardless. The performance of the piece by the UTEP Symphony Orchestra was great. The orchestra, of course, served as an accompaniment to the flute and harp, which were played very well. Both the sounds of the harp and flute give this piece a light and airy quality, which make for a much happier tone. The tempo is a little more on the faster side, with shorter notes being played by the orchestra, while the harp and flute carried most of the melody throughout the piece. The second piece performed is from the opera named La Italiana in Algheri, and was composed by Gioacchino Rossini. Rossini was born in 1792 and died in 1868. He was an Italian composer with a lot of talent, but the musical genre for which he made the most contributions is opera. His bio states, composer of around 40 operas, including the comic operas The Italian Girl in Algiers and The Barber of Seville. Rossini championed melody and beautiful singing over operatic drama, rattling out sensational hit after hit until his early retirement at 37. The piece performed was taken from his bigger work named La Italiana in Algeria. The basic plot of the opera is as follows. Elvira is upset that her husband, the Turkish Bey Mustafa, no longer loves her. Mustafa reveals that he wants to marry his wife off to his Italian slave, Lindoro, because he wants an Italian woman instead. Just from reading this basic plot, it makes me a lot more interested in actually watching the whole play. Although the performance given by the UTEP Symphony and the solo vocalist was truly amazing by itself. She had good control and knew how to project her voice to the audience. Her sound was very rich and detailed, and her ability to sing in a different language with such accuracy was truly amazing to watch. The third piece performed was composed by Luigi Bassi, and it is called the Fantasia da Concerto on Modes by Rigoletto by Verdi. Bassi was born in 1833 and died in 1871. Reading through his bio, it is apparent that he was a true master of the clarinet. It reads, Bassi's compositions included 15 operatic fantasias for clarinet based on themes from many of the operas he performed at La Scala. The piece that was performed was one of those that is based on a theme from another opera by Verdi. The description of the piece says, the most famous and enduring of all of Bassi's works, and performing this work remains immensely challenging today, more than 150 years after its composition. With that description alone, it would seem that any clarinet player would be immediately intimidated by playing this piece. But the soloist that played with the UTEP Symphony truly handled himself like a professional throughout the whole piece. It was apparent that he possesses the mastery level to be able to perform this complicated piece. As for the piece itself, a clarinet the clarinet really had most of the work and created a mysterious and sort of fantasy setting. The last piece performed was composed by Brahms, and it is titled Symphony Number 1. Brahms lived from 1833 to 1897. His bio states Brahms was the great master of symphonic and sonata style in the second half of the 19th century. As for the piece itself, Brahms composed it from 1855 to 1871. He seemed to be the ultimate perfectionist when it came to creating masterpieces. The piece overall is very good and I really enjoyed it. There's a lot of percussion present throughout the whole piece, and the other instrumentation includes woodwind, strings, and brass. It is composed of multiple movements which are different in regard to tempo and feel. The piece begins very loud and fast, but as it goes on, it starts to take on a more darker tone. Finally, it ends in a resolve back to a more lighter tone. Listening to this music really made me appreciate the upcoming talent of many young musicians here in El Paso. I enjoyed every single piece of this concert, even though it's not music that I am accustomed to listening to. I normally like to listen to more mainstream music and also music in the indie category. These pieces come from very different time eras, with many of the composers being from different parts of the world. I think that this mixture of culture and era into one concert is a very fascinating thing to do. Local music players and conductors are the only reason for which this experience is possible in a place like El Paso. It is very important to support them so that generation after generation can continue to enjoy these pieces, some of which are more than 300 years old. Other than supporting local artists, it's also important for people to get involved in their local events and issues. The easiest way to get people to do that would be to find something that the majority cares about and promote it anywhere possible, such as social media, posters, etc. For example, I would like to get involved in political protests because that is truly one of the only ways in which people's voices will be heard. There's a lot of challenges when it comes to this, including people that don't believe in the protest, sabotaging it in some sort of way, or just having to deal with the hate for what you believe in. Of course, this is a very touchy subject, and the only way to deal with this is to continue fighting for what you believe in, no matter the consequence. There will always be people there to try and shut you down, but at the end of the day, we all have to stand up for ourselves and do what's right in our hearts. In conclusion, this performance of a variety of pieces is something that I think everyone should experience at least once in their lives. Listening to live music is a much different feeling than listening to recordings. I believe that the UTEP Symphony Orchestra are true professionals in their field, and they deserve all the support from the public that they can get. Additionally, it's important to think about what one can do to improve the community because, after all, it only takes one person's voice to begin a change. And then I have my works cited on the last page. Thank you.